Alright, 2, 3, 1, we are live. So, welcome everyone to the DeBrief show. Sorry for the little late start. As usual, we will blame Simon Aline on this one. Put the blame on him. What did he do to Aircon when he said put the blame on him?
Yeah, something in Trinidad.
So we just want to say welcome to everyone. It's always a pleasure being here.
It's good to be back.
We're going to be back every Tuesday. Oh, good Lord. So long every Tuesday. This Tuesday thing. Tuesday is like we Sabbath now. Religiously, we're here every Tuesday.
Wow.
But we just want to say welcome to everyone. We also want to, good evening, Pammy. Welcome.
Hey, Pami.
We ask that you share the link. Everyone is joining. We just, as usual, we would always like to beg for our 5 minutes to share this link and to let people know that we are here. We have an interesting guest today.
Yes, please.
No one can blame us for being political today. Right, Simon?
No comment, sir.
No comment. Okay, fair enough.
No comment.
No comment. But we are here today, and as I said, we always love to be here with you to share the debrief. We will just want to say again, thank you to all of those that have been tuning into the debrief show, keeping us going, keeping the show very live and active. We just want to thank you for that. And wherever you can share the links, like the page, please do so we can have a very engaging conversation, so others can know that we are on, and they too can share their views and their concerns. We're discussing the criminal justice system today, and we know that this is obviously a topic that everyone has an interest in, the criminal justice, because I don't know if it sounds bad to say like all of us actually know someone in the prison system, so it affects each and every one of us to some level and some degree, because we may have family. We may have friends, we may have friends of friends, family of family, somebody we thought we know, relatives of relatives. I'm just being a little wicked today. But we all have someone in the justice system that we know, and I think in a lot of cases we all have been crying for justice for our relatives, whether it be speedy trials, whether it be people not being able to get offer remand, people not being able to get assistance, and true and true. Hey, Akil, welcome.
Yeah,
so we know that this is a hot topic, and we thought to bring someone in,
an expert
in this area, because we are not the expert, but she is an expert, and we always welcome expert advice.
We are experts at questions, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
We're definitely expert at questions and keeping it lively.
Yeah.
So,
number?
Sorry. So, we just want to welcome you. Again, we are open to questions. If you have any questions for our guests and for us, moderators, we welcome it as well. We ask that you share the link, like the link, because it is going to be an interesting show. We want to hear your piece, so please don't hold it in. Share it. Share it with us, right? Simon, if you don't mind, can you just turn on that breaker right there on this thing right here?
That's not a problem.
Sorry about that. I forgot to turn on this one. Yeah. Simon, you wanted to share. Remember your comedy show? I just said, yeah, Ramako. But we are going to get there. So we want good evening, Wayne. So again, bring your questions. We want to talk about the criminal system today. Bring your questions. Let us hear. We have an expert guest on with us today, and we want to hear from you. Like the page, share the page, so that everyone could be on the page. So I'm your guest, Kimar Safri. On my left, you have Simon Aline, and on my right, you have Kimar Stewart.
Yep.
And we have an expert in a young lady, beautiful lady, who is here with us today to share her expertise in the area of criminal justice. And we want to welcome Miss Maria Phillips. But before we do, we're going to ask Kimar Stewart to read her bio so that you could understand that she has all that it takes to be here.
That's right.
Kimar, go ahead.
Good afternoon, evening. Maria Phillips, LLB, LLM, MSc. The LLB will be the law of Bachelor's of Law.
Mhm.
My master's.
LLM would be the Masters of Law.
That's right.
And the MSc would be a Master's
And
And trade
trade.
policy.
Trade
Nice,
policy.
nice.
So Maria has been a practicing attorney for over 16 years, and Maria has established a general practice, becoming versed in both contentious and non-contentious legal matters in the area of family, civil, and criminal law. Since 2007, Ms. Phillips has facilitated workshops in mediation, in which key personnel in both government and the private sector were trained in mediation. She was course director at the UWA Faculty of Law, Cave Hill campus in alternative dispute resolution for over 7 years, which was instrumental in designing both negotiation and mediation workshops in alternative dispute resolution for undergraduate students.
Oh.
Ms. Phillips has completed her training and certification in mediation with the Center for Effective Dispute Resolution in London, and she's also a certified mediator in Trinidad. Moreover, she is the principal trainer for the Caribbean Center for Conflict Management, Inc., a company that trains personnel in alternative dispute resolution skills for the workplace throughout the Caribbean, the English-speaking Caribbean. And as part of her contribution to her community, she has served on several boards and is the former deputy chairperson of the Barbados Accreditation Council. She currently serves as the trustee for the charity, the Barbados Center for Conflict Management, which is currently engaged in teaching conflict resolution skills to primary school children.
Right.
And that is Maria.
Wow.
Commendable.
So we have brought you someone with extensive knowledge in the area of criminal justice in Barbados. So again, bring your questions. We want to hear from you. Maria wants to hear from you. But without further ado, we want to welcome Maria Phillips to the DeBrief show. Good night.
Good
Welcome.
night. Thank you. It's good to be here, and thank you for having me. As I would have said to these lovely gentlemen, I stopped practicing criminal law quite a while ago.
Okay.
And it's all going to inform part of this discussion that we're having here.
Right.
Yeah.
As an attorney, I realized years ago that there are a lot of matters that could have been settled earlier up. And one of the things that we're continuing to see, and you hear the complaints constantly, is about the amount of time you're hearing
Backlog
for
of
matters to happen, to proceed, for there to be justice. But I just want everybody to be aware too that when you talk about a system, you're actually talking about various parts that have to work together in order
So it's
for
like a puzzle.
Yes. So it's not just looking at the courts, but you also have to look at the supporting institutions that help the courts to function well.
Which would be
Like the
police
probation, the police,
Juvenile liaison
right?
scheme.
You're talking about child care boards.
Service, everything.
Yeah, so it really and truly what we have to have happening, and you will hear me say this a lot, is the capacity has to be built in terms of the institutions in order for that to happen.
Capacity.
Yeah?
Yeah. So to lead off tonight, Simon, I know this is your key area of interest. We want to pose the first question to Maria, and I said we welcome your questions as well. We see the numbers growing fast upon the
brilliant.
Facebook. So we welcome your questions. Good night to everyone that's now joining. We are with Maria Phillips, someone that has extensive knowledge in the criminal systems. Ask the questions. Don't be shy.
Right.
Call if you need to call. It is 846-9912. We are accepting WhatsApp calls only. Jane, hey, good night. Well, glad to
Thanks,
see you.
everybody.
Yeah, so Simon, lead us
Hey,
off.
what's
Yeah.
up? I think even before I go too heavy into my questions, it would be good for Maria just to explain a bit about the moving parts within the criminal justice system. I know you mentioned about youth service, but more so the legal terms and the jargon that you would refer to with matters and a case and charges and whatever, and how that ties into what is happening now, where people are saying that there seems to be a big backlog of criminal matters in Barbados. What do you think? So before you answer that question, I just want to get a little, when you talk about the criminal justice system, what is it? For those persons out there who may not understand totally all those moving parts that you alluded to earlier.
Okay, so you have, first of all, You have the courts themselves, which would involve the magistrate or the judges, and then they have the clerks, their assistants. You may have the administrative arm that's responsible for filing. You would have heard today how we're going to move to e-filing through the right?
Digitization.
Yeah. That's going to be very interesting. To see
We
what
can discuss
happens.
that more about what you think about it. If it's the way to go, or do you perceive a lot of challenges happening with that system?
All right, so we can get back to
We
that
get to that,
topic.
right.
So, and then you have the police, you know, in who work to bring the evidence and that kind of thing. Then you have the juvenile. You have a juvenile system as well that's supposed to be working. Very
We
important.
got to talk about that in light of what's happened recently.
Yeah, so you have youth, that kind of thing. You have the probation department that works with the juveniles. You have the probation department that assists in getting reports to the court, both in the high court and within the magistrate court.
Yes.
Then you have the child care board also, where people may have matters that they have to refer to the child care board, right? So you have all these different arms. When you talk about the system of justice, then you have to look at all these different arms that are responsible for helping the justice system to function effectively.
So a question with regards to minors committing major offenses. You know, recently there would have been an issue with a young man who would have been bullied by his peers and he lost his life. And one of the outcries, a big outcry coming from his mother, was that she wants to see justice served. But on the other hand, a lot of people in society say, well, the young man's life would appear to be taken by another young person, a person who is under the age of being tried as an adult. Can you give us that distinction, like the difference between a minor and the adult, and what's the differences in terms of court and charges and so on?
Okay, so what happens in that case is that they would have been very young. How old they would have been? The children, they were
11 or so, under 15 for sure. The group,
right,
the group
but
that
they would
you
have to be. There is something called criminal responsibility in law, all right? And so under our law as it currently is, because I'm hearing that we are to soon have a juvenile justice bill, which will change that. The age of criminal responsibility is 11 years.
11 years old.
Right, and I think the new juvenile bill that they're proposing, they have placed it at 12.
That's well.
Right, so really you are talking about restorative justice.
Yes,
This is
we
a
get to
matter
that.
that is ripe for restorative justice.
Yes.
Right, because in this case then, you can have parents who recognize what has taken place and who can say, well, how can we help
Fix
you?
it.
How,
Can be
yes,
helpful.
exactly.
So with a situation like that where a minor commits an offense, and we could talk about restorative justice.
You got to call and finish.
Okay, you want to jump to the call? Let's
Yeah.
start the call now.
Go ahead, caller.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Maria Phillips. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Okay. I was watching you on screen. You look quite nice. So I should call in. This is Jermaine Bedford.
Yeah, Jermaine.
Hey, Jermaine, what's up, my
Hello,
brother?
Jermaine.
You should be on the show, not calling.
I'm good.
Right, we understand your
Well,
position.
you're on
You
the
were
radio.
supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Right, so I can't be there.
Well, you can't be there this
Yeah,
year.
Maria. Right. So Maria, I am very glad that you came, and I'm actually very sad that I'm missing this portion of the show because I actually wanted seriously to discuss the system of the criminal justice system in Barbados and the reform of the actual system. You know, when you look at I've seen the steps that the government of Barbados has currently made, and I've heard you. I was listening to you talking about a few of them just now. But I think that the government the government must go absolutely further. We must do introspection into those who are rotating into our prison system and find a way to get them not going back in. We have to look at a matter of prevention rather than looking at the cure. We gotta stop looking for solutions and start looking for things to preempt these problems. Time does not start at 17 or 21, it starts at 10. Right? So there's a lot of things that are happening and a lot of factors that need to be more or less moved off of the table before we can actually get to serious criminal justice reform. You as an attorney at law, sadly, most of the times you deal with guys when they are getting ready to go to court, either to send a long prison sentence or to want bail. That's the only time that they know you, but we don't need you at that point. We need you when they're 5 years old to tell them, listen, you don't need to be a criminal when you grow up. You could be a good citizen and do something better with your life. Am I making any sense here?
Yes, well, let me just correct you there. I hardly practice criminal law now. What I've decided to do is to take the training to the primary schools. So I am teaching primary school children how to deal with conflict, because I realize we have to start earlier, right?
Yes.
And I agree with you and what you're saying. Prevention is better than cure. And some of the studies that have been done by some lecturers at we have noted that when persons get involved in crime, there are various reasons for persons getting involved in crime. One of them is financial, right? So sometimes, yes, and I mean, if you speak to some of them, like for example, I was speaking to this gentleman who was charged for possession of marijuana, and he said to me, "Look, this is my cash cow. All right, so I come in here, but I more than likely get end back up here, because this is how I support. This is my side hustle. I sell vegetables in the market, but this is part of my hustle, right?
You see what you're speaking. You see what you're speaking about there. It comes to the very next thing that I want to come to. We need to put a serious system of restitution for victims in place. So you see guys like him who would say that he knows that he is part of the problem, he knows the solution, and he refuses to stop that problem and go and look for a job and be content with your income. Then we could put a system of restitution in place and say, look, you could get 5 years in prison and pay $50,000 and call it a day, or we could give you 15 years in prison and you don't pay a cent. You mean?
Yeah, okay, but you see, we're saying a lot here, because I think we have to look to move away from custodial sentences, right? Or leave custodial sentences only for the most serious offenses, because we are reaching.
No, I kind of disagree with you a bit. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Whilst I do not believe in locking up everybody in Cherry Key,
Right.
I believe that you must have serious custodial sentences as a deterrent. Right? On one end, because there are some people that no matter what you do, you cannot reform them. You know, they got some people that say the devil seed, they got some of them that got to lock up.
Yeah, but I disagree with you. Because I disagree with you.
You're free to disagree, but there are some people that are naturally demons and wicked.
No, you can't. A former minister said that everybody cuss the minister. You can't come and sit down, no man.
You're the minister. It's okay.
Listen.
Last point, Johnny.
I could be a future prime minister, but I'm saying it. There are some people who are demons who need locking up. However, we need to come to a point.
Huh? You can call them demons.
But then we have to find a way to stop people from going to prison, to stop crimes, because the reality is that when these crimes are committed, the victims are the ones who hurt. And I'll leave it on this, right? You know, we talk a lot about the criminal justice system reform. We need to focus a lot on the rights of victims, because you know what? Once we try to help the criminals, we forget about the persons that they hurt, and that is very important.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, caller.
Thank you for the fire. Thank you for the yes, that was very passionate.
Jeremy is always passionate. Since he called, he won't name on TV. Yes, please. As you were saying.
Right. So my angle would be I want to focus on the processes of the magistrate's court and what it takes for a person to be charged by the police, then
Brought to court.
Doesn't matter.
Brought to court. There are some instances where persons have to spend time into the cells, the police cells, and then you're taken to court, and then from hardly ever a case is tried on the first instance, right? So then the case is adjourned until forever long. So like you spend 5 years going to court for assaulting a man, right? So at the end of the 5 years, I don't want to continue the case anymore because it don't make sense. I actually over the fact that I was injured or discharged, and then there's not hardly any financial liability. So I am looking at it as a waste of money and time. How that entire process.
If I may add before you get on to Marie, I've been to court where it just in being in court, I've seen some magistrate throw out cases because of that same length of time. Police haven't been able to bring evidence to the court to substantiate what they're charging the person with, and I've seen that it also have affected people's jobs to the point where people are coming to court and they have to actually take time off every time from the court
They
every
couldn't
month.
do the job. They
So
couldn't
it's
do the
literally a
job.
monthly, and then you may not let's say a member or a colleague may not understand that you're going to
Superior.
court or where you're going court for petty crime, but because you go in court you stigmatized, or because you in the judicial system or the law system you look like if you are a negative person in society. But really and truly people are saying, look, if you can charge me, but if you ain't gonna charge me, stop wasting my time.
Fair
I think
enough.
that ties back into what Kimar is saying, because I've seen magistrates throw out cases
Yeah.
because of the length of time, and I've been in court at least three occasions to see that, where people are coming to court and say,
The
magistrate,
prosecution
I'm
already-
tired,
Yeah.
I got my
Yeah.
daughter,
Prosecution
I
already
got
said
things.
that.
And just to substantiate on the point, I think that a lot of our police officers need better legal training.
Especially prosecutors.
But let's let her talk to Larry. I want to speak
But
to
I just want to
Yeah, let me speak to that.
context so that
Let her
she could reply
Reply.
uninterrupted, of course.
Right.
So,
You don't have German today.
so my thing is,
Sorry, German.
I think a lot of our police officers need the appropriate training, because many times I've seen criminals smarter than these police officers come to court and beat police officers at the court.
Prosecutors.
Yes, at the court
Prosecutors.
Yeah,
game.
they know the system. That's why.
So
They know
What
the
are your views? What are your
system. They
views?
know the system, and they also go and read the law in prison. Okay, and you will actually know a person who's gone and read, because they know what to quote from. They know what defenses to have, etc. But yes, there are instances where if you can't prove a case, or if there have been instances where sometimes the person has spent enough time on remand as well. So you have to take all of those things into
But what about the ones that are not in remand but going home and coming, leaving work and
Yes,
coming?
because,
Is that time considered?
because what happens is that
Don't do
sometimes the prosecution or sometimes the defense is not ready,
Not ready.
right?
Right.
And so you have a number of adjournments. I mean, I think one
I've
of
been
my
there.
reasons for frustration with the criminal justice system, and I will say this before I want to make this clear to you as well, is that most magistrates and judicial officers have been trained. So you will find now that yes, there's a charge, but what you will find is that they will try to encourage some sort of restorative
yes.
or apply something. So let's say if one person is charged for thief or for stealing, I almost say thieving,
That's what
right?
you call it now.
Right?
Local
For
parlance.
stealing. Sometimes there could be a case where the funds were paid back. Okay, that would be taken into account, into consideration. Sometimes, and so the magistrates are now open. They're open to those kind of things happening, and that has been happening for a long time, right? But it does not negate the fact that yes, there is a need for, particularly, there's a need for a more efficient system,
Yes.
because maybe it's a case where the police officers or the prosecutors are overworked, right? Maybe it's a case where you have, especially when you're dealing also with, there's a need for particular training in certain areas, for example, juveniles, for example.
Yes.
The way in which some juveniles, some studies have shown the way in which they were treated in court, they were not allowed to have a voice. Right? They come out of the system feeling as though the whole system is against them. Right? Which is contrary to some of the principles that we would have signed on for in the Convention on the Rights of the Child.
True.
Right? So there are a lot of things that are happening that are ripe for reform. We've seen the juvenile bill. There's been a bill bandying about from the last administration. And because you can have a child now under our old law who is charged for wandering. What is wandering?
You find that?
You understand?
I was outside actually late at night, actually going home, and the police officers were harassing me, asking me where no come from, where no come from. If I got intentions to go and steal, I was
Really?
like, what?
Really?
Yeah.
I going home.
I remember a time a lady met in jail, and she said she was arrested and put in jail on the suspicion that she was going to commit a crime. And I was like, how are you going to be locked up
You got crystal ball.
on the
isn't it?
suspicion
Correct.
of committing a crime? Not only that, what my challenge is though, is that we have a lot of people that, well, on you okay, it's like insurance to me. The court is like insurance. They take long to pay you, and the system take long to give you justice.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, for example, I will go for example. If me and Kimar get in a fight and Kimar damage me,
Hurt you.
no, I use a Bayesian dialect because it's debrief. I debrief in it, right?
Grievous bodily harm.
That's called grievous bodily harm, right? In legal
that
legal
could be
system.
one aspect.
Right.
aspect.
But I don't think probably shed blood as another aspect.
Yeah.
Correct? Wounding with intent. So my thing is,
You're very familiar with that.
very. My thing is now with that is, so we get in this dispute. He going to court because apparently they may get enough evidence. So I won't done lick up and thing. Kimar going to court for the next 5 years. But as a victim,
Where is your justice?
there's no justice for
That's
me
it.
because all he can do is get to the court, and if on a good day the judge said, look, Kimar been coming to court for 5 years,
Naturally.
no evidence come forward, they can't find the paper, so let's throw the case. So Kimar get to walk free after busting me up. Where's my justice?
Right, and that goes back to what we have been talking about,
Let's talk about
where we
it.
talk about restorative justice,
Mhm.
where you can actually help pay for the person's medical bills. I've seen that happen.
So let's go with
If
that.
you're back-
So what is restorative justice?
So this is where you are dealing with the effects of the crime and how they have impacted, trying to find solutions for the person who has been impacted
Right.
as a result. So, I don't want to curse on your state, but they say sometimes the law is an ass. Because, and the reason why, so that was not a, bad.
Yeah,
Be a
I
judge.
understand. Yeah,
That
summary.
it's a quotation.
Yeah, legal
right?
quotation.
Because what happens with the law is that the law can only give a penalty because it's on the statute book, all right? And so what these principles of restorative justice do is that it brings a holistic approach,
Humanity to it.
a humanity, that's a good word to use, to dealing with crime, right? So that the person may walk, let's say for example, a child has been raped or a woman has been raped, she's traumatized. Then she goes through the exact same thing when she goes through a trial.
And every time she goes through that trial.
You have, exactly, so she has to go through the same thing again.
Yeah.
Now, restorative justice comes in and says this woman has been negatively impacted. The perpetrator can pay for her counseling. The perpetrator, you understand?
Yeah,
There are
correct.
certain things that can be done to
In that
assist this
restorative
woman.
justice, does the person impacted have to agree? So let's say, okay,
Yeah.
you're just
Yes.
paying my bill, but I want more than that. I want
You
about
want
your bill.
apology.
So I want an apology. Is that person
Yes.
included in the restorative
Yes,
justice?
so it's actually a process where you will have a trained facilitator who will bring the parties together.
That's tough for
So like beyond a mediator, or a mediator would be
A
sufficient.
mediator.
Like what you do, like exactly.
Yes,
That's
like
your,
a mediator. So you have people trained. I've actually seen.
And that is agreed upon to go to the mediation?
You have to agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You must agree. There are some people. You see, people don't understand. Like for example, let's say that unfortunate incident with the boys who beat up the little boy. I am sure what is in the mother's mind who lost this is, why my son?
That's right.
Why my son? And I've actually seen a restorative justice process where this woman, her son was murdered. And the question that she kept asking, because she said, even though years have passed, is like she wanted closure.
Yes.
And that is one of the things we don't, there are a lot of feelings and sentiments beyond just just burying this child.
That's
Why
right.
did you choose to deal with my son? Why did you choose to shoot my son?
Okay.
And I've seen that process where both parties agreed. He was still on death row because he was convicted,
Right.
and the mediator worked with the parties over a couple of years, brought them together, and she forgave him, and he was able to have peace.
Right. My question now is to do with insurance and the way in which claims are handled from the legal side. I saw a video of a gentleman actually crying and saying how the attorney received the funds and did not pass on to him.
Oh boy.
Right.
Oh wait, but that was that. I saw that story in the newspaper too as well. Something similar to that.
Right. I am not looking at it from the theft perspective. I'm looking at it from the procedural perspective, where attorneys would negotiate with insurance firms to work out whatever was the best arrangement that they can be paid, and it is not what the client would want, and more than likely the funds are not reaching the clients, or the deals are not worked out in the best interest of the clients, but that of the insurance firms.
Yes.
And then it took 15 years to give the money in the first place.
Exactly.
Well, that's but I'm not familiar with that incident. I would love to be able to comment on it if it was more informed, right?
Some comments.
Let me ask a follow-up question then. Do you, we're not going to put you in such a hard place, but do you think in this regard, and with that we've been seeing going on, do you think, we're asking a suggestion to see if it would also, we're asking a question to see if it also be a good suggestion for lawyers to look at. Do you think it has come for now for a time for lawyers to insure against people's property or possession? So let's say, for instance, I hire you to be my lawyer, and I say, well, look, I'm going to receive a certain amount. Do you think it is time that lawyers, we start looking at insuring that money to see, or insuring that property to make sure that it coming back to us as the, what do you call it, the client? Do you think that that's a good suggestion going forward and looking in the legal systems to start insuring in those areas?
We got some points coming here.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
That's a tough one to debate. I think given a lot of what's happening, I know there's trust that is being eroded.
A lot of trust, no.
Right. I know some institutions have already begun to separate fees. You know, so it goes straight to who it needs to go to.
Right. That's what we're seeing.
But I would love to see that insurance in place. And by no means, we're not looking at any, we're not scooping and saying all lawyers are bad, because there's some excellent lawyers. I have some excellent lawyers, I must say, trustworthy. I can turn my back. So I'm not going to sit down here and say one shoe fit all.
True.
But what I would love to see for those, because sometimes that we do things in the system, people don't trust the court system. People don't trust the legal system. People don't trust the police system.
We don't.
And while there are good people like yourself, for sure, Maria, we don't want that anything taints persons. And I think that we have to start looking at protecting the system and protecting the legal system, the police system,
and the victims.
And the victim, because
Clients and victims.
many times people might say, oh, we got some bad police, but I can say that you have some excellent police officers that care about the public and will do all out for public, go beyond. So we need to protect both, and I would love to see that some way in the system that it is that people have this assurance that their items or their funds are protected by insuring. You know, like when you're working a business, they may say, okay, if you pick up garbage, we give you a 1-year medical checkup, or we give you insurance that will cover you. So I think that these things could be start looking at brokerage, where lawyers deal with when they come through fees or come through properties dealt through brokerage instead of firms or stuff. And this idea, I mean, we like to pitch solution on it, but we don't want to stick on the topic for too long.
Right, we got some comments.
So let's get in
from
comments.
Wayne.
Yeah.
Wayne was saying full computerization of the system is needed, meaning the criminal justice system. Dale Roach, Dale says, to get justice in Barbados, it seems you got to have connections. And then Wayne is also saying, is that done at the criminal stage, or do you have to get a civil action? I think that's referring to a previous point. He said insurance companies cut a check directly for the client.
That's correct.
For the client.
Right.
So that addresses the
That
issue.
addresses that issue.
That's
Good.
why it's separate.
Right. The settlement is not paid to the lawyers.
The one on the system of the judicial system becoming digitized is I believe is a good thing. The reason why I took part in parts of it, in terms of looking to digitize, because one of my company digitizes stuff.
Okay.
And the system needs to move to a technological era where, because my ex-girlfriend, she was a legal clerk, and sometimes when she have to go and search for wills, or she go and search for title deeds and stuff, she's in the magistrate, in the Supreme Court searching. I mean, you could take so long just to search through one particular book just to get the information you get. So I think that having all of those in the a technological era would help a lot going
definitely.
forward, especially going forward. Because you don't might not need to go so far back in terms of digitization, but moving forward, let's say from 2017 and up, would be good to be able to bring the country back to that technological era. Because I remember being shut into certain meetings in Bolivia and the thing where they talk about where we believe that we're in a technological era, but the world is in a data collection era. And so we can't collect data at any given point in time because we don't have the things in the technology field. We have to count them by hand. So I think the judicial system moving faster. I would love to also see some computers in the courts.
But they are. And one of the things, yes, they are. They have been.
I remember looking at the judge called for this. There was this guy that was doing the traffic offense, and he was a van driver. And
Wayne says that's currently being worked on.
okay, good. That's good. And
Wayne.
the guy, when the magic called for the paper, it was like this start right, and he tried to shuffle it too.
Right. So what you will find is in the high courts, there's more
Technology.
technology
And that in the magistrate.
than in the magistrate court,
Correct.
in which you have the magistrate actually sitting down
Right,
down.
correct. I never had high court. I never had high court.
Just for the
Whereas-
viewers' sake, could you give us the different levels of court?
Right.
So there's lower court, high court.
Right. So the lower courts are the magistrate courts. Then you have the Supreme Court, which comprises the High Court and the Court of Appeal. All right, and then our final appellate court will be the CCJ.
Which is the Caribbean Court of Justice.
Justice.
Okay.
So
okay.
go
When-
yes, go ahead.
So I was asking specifically about the Court of Appeal. I try to follow the cases within the newspaper, and sometimes when a case gets transferred to the High Court, then I hear something about appeal judges and having to sit in front of the hand-picked set of judges to be able to hear your case. If the case does not go in your favor from the High Court. Now, I am not totally au fait with how the process works. So, as the legal luminary.
Yes. Okay, what I would just say to you is that there are instances where you can appeal a decision, right? And so
Any decision?
not every decision, but when where there is merits for you to do the appeal, you
A
can
decision will mean a ruling.
a ruling of the court. Yeah. So in some instances, you have to wait until that decision is given so that you would know if you have grounds. You have to have grounds for the appeal.
Yeah.
Right. And so then you will be able to file your appeal.
But the lawyer will look for that ground.
Right.
Yes.
So, how are these two judges for the Court of Appeal chosen?
The judges are chosen by commission. Right, so you will
Based on
have
expertise and
yeah. So based on
Years
their
of
years of
service and so on.
seniority, that kind of thing, right? But what I wanted to also highlight would be the fact that as we were talking about the digitization, one of the good things about COVID is that it forced us
That's right. To
to
digitize.
digitize. That's one of the good things, and we actually had Zoom hearings throughout the whole. As a matter of fact, some judges have not returned to face-to-face court appearances.
All right.
Yes.
I think it saves some money too on the people that go to travel.
Yeah, I think it allows for
It's
greater
cost-effective.
efficiency,
True.
right? A greater efficiency in the system, and I think the initiative now to digitize the system is where we really need to go, right? And we will see how it is managed.
Yeah,
That's it.
but the digitization also calls for softwares, because we don't want to get mixed up where you think that just because you digitize something you can find it.
Yeah,
The digitization is also, the government has to also invest in the software
And
that
the
allow
platform.
for, and the platform that allows for judges to pull the information from overseas or from Barbados. So people may, in some companies that we've digitized, people may digitize and just leave the things on a flash drive, or digitize and leave it on a thing, but we need to be able to put it on a software, and I think government has moved to that. They put it on a software that you can sit here and access documents. I remember one time my doctor wanted to find out something about me. I know he was able to use the system in the hospital to see my records and where last I went and what. So those are things that we need to be able to know, that when we have the digitization, there need to be the programs that suffice as well, that anywhere you are around the world you can access it as well. So
Correct, and software has to be continuously
Yeah.
developed
And
upgraded
Update, yeah.
as well. So that's why I said it is one thing for us to be doing these things, but I am hoping that there will be some continuity to ensuring that, and not just the Supreme Court, but the magistrates.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for magistrates because they sit and they hear a plethora of cases in one day. Right?
I'll repeat that
and
the next.
And they come back. So there is a need for that technology.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a question by
There's a
Sancho,
question.
right?
Go ahead.
And Sancho is going back to what I said earlier. By Sancho. My question is, how soon will Barbados adopt restorative practices? I don't know if it was mentioned because I came on late. But we mentioned it a bit, but
We don't know. That's the truth, because I will tell you this.
How soon you would like to see it?
I would like to see it yesterday.
Okay.
But what I will
Justice.
tell you is Barbados has been backward in implementing a lot of the ADR processes. When we look at countries like Jamaica, when we look at Trinidad, when we look at within the OECS, they have functioning processes, right? And they've had them for years. We took a long time to even get a court annex mediation process implemented in Supreme Court and on the magistrate court. But you have Jamaica, which has been doing these things for over 20 years. You have Trinidad that implemented a mediation act since 2004.
And the drug court was only now implemented too.
We have a drug court, thank God, Justice Randall World. It was his brainchild, really, in terms of, which is a restorative. It is a restorative intervention, because what he recognized is that there were a number of persons coming back recidivism, occurring second offenders, and he said it doesn't make sense take these people going out to prison, coming back out,
back in again,
going back to the system again. It doesn't make sense. So we need to understand, why is there this dependency on the drugs? I personally feel that for drug offenses, a custodial sentence does not make any sense.
Which is custodial sentences again
It's where you imprison somebody
for 5 and 6 and
for
7
a
years.
couple of years because they have
Possession
apparatus and
or the apparatus, or they may be caught in the act. I honestly feel that we have to reserve, because it costs the government $30,000 per inmate per year.
That's right.
Okay, we have to look at solutions for crime that do not involve necessarily a custodial sentence. We were heard through the throne speech today that there's now going to be non-custodial or a fine as it were, for a small percentage, 15 grams or something like that.
Just something.
Right. So I mean, those sort of things are what I think where we should be heading, and I would like to see that even in terms of other offenses that we implement restorative justice practices.
I think on the to be fair or to be balanced on that drug court, one of the challenges I see for the drug court is that and I think a lot of Barbadian agencies or companies fall. Like for today, yesterday I heard the Minister of Health talking about a mental health committee per se, or looking at mental health. But this is where the ministries fall down. This is where government continue to fall down. When we saw the gentleman would have committed the crime on the homeless, the homeless guy committed the crime on the reporter and the gentleman. Yes. We had made a cry and we sent letters to government to talk about setting up a commission. Now you're looking, to set up a commission, or you're looking to set up a system which looks at mental health, but you're leaving out key players. That is where we fall down in this society, where ministers may get a prop or the face or whatever for looking good to say, yes, I said that. You didn't say that. You took people's proposals and you look at people's proposals and you said that, and you ran with the best.
Yeah.
Now, the going back to the drug court, when and if the drug court does not have support from on the ground agencies, that's where it fails. Because then you would not have restorative justice, or you will have repeat offenders.
Well,
Without the interaction of the CSOs, the civil society organizations to assist.
Correct. The on-the-ground people.
Correct.
Kimar, you're speaking my language, okay? A lot of our institutions, like sometimes a politician can hear us talking about restorative justice, and the next minute you hear restorative justice in this thing, and there is no understanding as to how
But
to
they're clueless.
implement it.
But they're clueless.
And they are not, because I might not wear their hat. They are not going to come and say, "Oh, he is really."
But they're not wearing yours neither.
You understand? And so what we have is these brilliant ideas that suddenly
True.
come in the middle of the night, and they run to Parliament and they say, "Oh, this is an excellent idea. Let's do this." Now, the way to have set it up would have been to get the key stakeholders in the
You have to, because remember, not knocking on the ministers' common sense, but in a lot of cases, common sense for them in common. In that you did not. Somebody wrote to you and said, "Listen, let's start taking up garbage off the street." And just because you hear it, all of a sudden the government starting to take up garbage off the street. And you may not be talking about the garbage that you're seeing in the cans around. You may be talking about garbage in the sea. You may be talking about garbage in the gully, the beach. You may talk about garbage in the old people's house, the hoarders. So at the end of the day, we find that these are the problem and why people repeat in the system. You have to look for a core set of organizations, and remember, the backbones of the country always rest on the church, but also the backbones of the country also rest on the civil society organizations. True. Because they're the ones that are not held bound by religion, by politics. They're held bound by passion. They're bound by passion and care and love and drive.
Yeah.
And when you take them out of the equation, you do an injustice to the people that they already serve.
True.
You understand? And that is why we see, even in the homeless community, you see people getting jail for $3.50 of a chocolate.
Or for a tin of corned
You
beef.
see people getting jail for a tin of corned beef. And while we are not trying to condone no criminal activity whatsoever, but what we are trying to say is that there is a way to cut the criminal behavior. May not reach all, but as I always tell my staff, you head up high, because if you help one, you help more than a lot of people did.
That's right.
And that is all we need to do. Find a system. So Simon organization may be able to be good enough to get 5 out help. Yours might get 10, mine might get 4, his might get 20. And that, if you add it up, how much ever that was, that could be 60-70% saved from the system.
True.
But I'm glad you said that, Kimar, because one of my passions is this. I say government cannot do everything. It does not.
And should not appear to do everything.
It doesn't. What you need is the expertise from civil society organizations.
Right. CSOs.
And they can help government to form even the right policy. Because a lot of you have been out there in the field for years, and you know what you encounter. You know what policy would work best, right? And that's one of the things about restorative justice is that each country has to design its own program.
To suit them. So it's not one size fits all.
Correct.
Correct. It has to be realized, as they call it.
That's it, because what works in Canada, and the interesting thing is, it's amazing. They say almost it's like life can almost be like a circle, because we came out of civilizations in which our ancestors really, the matters were settled under a tree by the elders in the village.
With respect. There was a clear level of, there was a clear demarcation.
These concepts are not new.
True.
Right? What has happened is that we've recognized the type of common law system that we have implemented really that is not working. The system is frustrated. We actually have to go back to the beginning, where we now have a council of elders who can sit, or facilitators or neutrals, who can help persons to resolve conflict, right? And it has to be something that is integrated throughout the system. It does not work alone within a court system.
Correct.
So we need community centers that will help
mitigate all
to
these
do
so I'm wondering if, like, don't want to cut you, if like that's part of the Purview of the Thorn Commission. Because we're trying to say that you want community. Because if you want community government, you also have to speak to justice and conflict resolution, community justice and so on at the community level.
I believe we have to bring in somebody from the Town Commission. I think the Town Commission has a long way to go.
Yeah, but
as it relates to, I like the concept, but remember, community justice came from Africa when you saw a lot of those elders, as you said,
Correct.
meet in a community, and the community can decide even if you're going to live in this community or not.
Correct.
So, but Barbados has a long way to go as it relates to even the town commission becoming that governing body for community. If you're looking at all 30 communities, if you're looking, it still has to give clear definition to us. Is really
Law has to be
what it is.
discussed and fleshed out.
Kimo, you have a question, and then we have a question online.
My question is related to the criminal justice miscellaneous provision bill, which will be dealt with the right to trial by jury. So I know you would have had your opinion publicly on it. So
The trial by 12 not carried by 6.
yeah.
You mean right, in terms of unanimity of the amount of persons who will, right.
So I'm just looking at an article from online.
Uh-huh.
This is one of Maria's article.
Yes.
My article? I didn't
Are you
publish an
reporting?
article.
Oh,
she
quoted.
public, but you were
Quoted from which paper?
Quoted. Is Barbados today?
The Nation News.
Nation.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, I can't even remember.
The news also quote you for when you said no comment.
Right. So
Oh.
it said that you commented on the legislation which would impact the right to trial by jury.
Okay, good man.
While the country was facing the COVID. The rest is just political semantics, so I don't want to go into that aspect. But I just wanted your opinion on.
Really, he let this topic by.
No, but this is Rand's purview, I guess.
Right,
Rand said
right.
some of these
I would have
issues were raised.
spoken about it because of the
Talk
fact
commission.
that somebody sits down and suddenly has a light bulb in the middle of the night and there is, they don't look to discuss how is this going to work out, how to flesh this out properly, and then what are the implications.
But for me,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read through any detail, so I know that the viewers may not be totally au fait with what we're speaking about. No. So if you could just give the bill a little bit of backstory as to what we were speaking
I
about.
have not looked at that in so long, I can't remember. But all I remember
Mhm.
is that what they were requiring is that there's a greater number of persons on the jury who would,
Right. They basically spoke about the requiring a majority or not to determine a guilty verdict.
Right. So there's a greater majority that was required. No, sorry, there's a
Lesser
lesser
majority.
majority. Right, if I remember correctly. There was a lesser majority that was required for a guilty verdict. And so the I guess with these instances of crime and the serious
Yes,
crime and
yes.
gun violence and all of that, they're probably
difference.
thinking, so they're looking for ways then to see how the delay, because obviously if you have a jury that is hung who cannot make a decision, you're probably thinking, okay, the lesser people who need to say yes or no would cause the trial to go faster.
So-
But unfortunately, you cannot do that without engaging civil society.
So that's why, in your opinion, that would be unfair to the person being tried.
Yes. So that was part of it, and also understanding how it will impact on the trial by the whole concept of trial by jury. These things come out of a whole philosophy, and I think that we have to be able to look at the pros and cons and open that up for discussion.
Right. Sorry.
Go ahead, because go ahead,
Well,
Gibson.
I mean,
Mhm.
as I said, I am not the attorney,
No,
but I could see from a layman perspective, where it's actually stripping the rights of an accused to a fair and free trial. Just for clarity, trials are allowed in the High Court, to be exact,
Yes.
right? Which is more the serious cases, which would
Right.
be
Indictable offenses. So you were
Right.
talking about
Right,
grievous
hard,
bodily
more hard, right.
harm and
Rape,
that kind of
murder,
thing.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What about the one? There's a funny one. Sorry, I remember Ninja Man was actually charged for going into the church. I think it's called sacrilege.
Yes.
Committed, and that is a high court matter.
So what did he do? He stole.
He stole a Bible from the
Shut
church,
it up.
but here you can't. No, funny enough, it didn't go. It wasn't just magistrate. He shouldn't, of course, but it didn't. That case had to go to high court because it was a matter of religion. So he stole from what they call like a holy place or whatever. So I found it strange that to break into certain places that would not be considered a magistrate case but a high court case, and I didn't know that I thought that everybody had to come through magistrate then to high court, but his actually went from magistrate to high court. because it was all you carry is like a Bible and a cross or something. So
Right, so
but
it depends too on the value of
it,
what.
anything got $103 or something. So.
$103?
Yeah, three. But he
Are you
spent.
sure?
Yeah, because it was in the court, and I mean he spent a pretty long time in prison for it on remand. But I'm just saying that I found it strange that a case like that took that long and had to go to
Right.
high court for something of the stealing
Yes,
of
and
Bible.
can you imagine that you are taking up time, valuable time, taxpayers' money for things like that?
And that was it.
When really and truly what is supposed to happen, right, is that you should have mediators who are on the roster for the high court and the magistrate courts. When
Right.
these matters come up, then the option should be given to go to mediation.
Yeah, because we said to the court that we wanted to settle the matter by paying the amount, which was $100. But I think at that time they said that the people did not want to settle.
Good night,
So it was
David.
like you can't settle like $100 and change. What you think about a court psychologist? I don't know if it's there yet, but let me elaborate a little bit. Court psychologist and a court case manager. The reason why Simon may go court, and he take, let's say he did carry Charlie, but then he needs to be evaluated before coming back. So let's say the court say, okay, we're gonna adjourn this matter for 10 minutes or hold a 15-minute recess on Simon. Send in the case manager, court, and send in the psychologist to understand why was the offense committed, to see if it could be an offense that needs to be thrown out, if it's an offense that we need to say, if we need to give him psychiatric evaluation. And don't get me wrong, I know that the court I know that some people plead in the court to go to psyche, or the court makes that decision based on history. But for me, based on history, their court psychologists or that case manager should be able to look at agencies to refer the person to. Reason why? Everybody don't like shopping in Bridgetown. Some people like warrants, and some people like, so of course, all Hastings. So there's a difference in what people like. So you may look at my record and see where Simon went psyche 50 times. Surely something down there can't be working for Simon, because I always say, if a man will keep repeating the system have to fail.
Correct.
Right? But there may be a help that Kemar Stewart may be able to do, and you have not explored that option as yet. So that court psychologist or that court case manager should be able to sit down in 5, 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever the time, and come up with a plan to present to the court. Because I know you got probation officers for this and that, and I know that they got. But these persons should meant to come up in the system and say, hey, Your Honor, this is our suggestion on this particular case here, based on history, based on what we just had a conversation on a session. That is what we recommend. You could feed off of that. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. There are some instances where
Monica, pay me now.
wait, hold on. Before you run to the bank.
You're right.
There are some instances where the magistrate may ask for evaluation for some offenders. Obviously, this is when the case is going on. But I have always said this, you and I are thinking on the same level, that it is best to evaluate the case in the very beginning stages than when we do have case management process in the civil courts as well, right? But that takes place later after documents have been filed, etc. I believe, as you are suggesting, that case management needs to take place in the beginning, right? Where you can really say, okay, this is just one issue. This could go through mediation and this is finished. Right?
So she has some comments too as well. Continue.
Yeah, or you could say, or you could pull apart the case and you could say, okay, bam, 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 these 3 issues need to be mediated and the other one can go to court.
Correct.
And so what happens at the beginning is that you start then to reduce a lot of the time and a lot of the, because I mean my longest case to date is 13 years.
Jeez.
And
But you know, young up there, boy, there, no?
Justice delayed is justice denied, right?
13 years, and I had to come to the point where I recognize, you know what, these parties did not want to settle. Either I decide to stay on this case or I give it up, and I had to make the decision to give it up, right? Because they were fighting, and I've seen some people who fight over property and the termites before they finish the court. Okay, there are those cases, and I remember once being in court, and I heard number 249 of 1984. You were born yet?
Born 81.
I didn't.
Okay.
My parents were probably not thinking about me.
1984.
Wow.
Okay, and I looked up and I said, this is ridiculous.
For sure.
Right? And that, so what I'm saying, Kimara, I am agreeing with you totally.
I got one more question to ask. I asked suggestion to me. I want to compare me for this year later. I don't want to run to the bank because that means.
So you're going to be legal advisor
to the attorney? Yeah, no, I can be. No, I want to be the legal idealist advisor. I don't want to run to the bank. If I got to run to the bank, that means the money like I want to drag my foot. The other question, I believe personally that the court martials are underutilized.
Explain that.
And when I say underutilized, most people recognize court martials or court thing to come and put you out of the house, or to come and act after the court puts out submit whatever what they call it,
a summons.
A summons. Now I believe that the court martial, when I say they're underutilized, where I believe court martials could be used heavily in this country is to also have the power to subpoena, if that's the correct word, to subpoena evidence. Meaning that if the prosecution or the police is taking long to bring forth evidence, that the court marshals through the court, because they work on behalf of the court, not on behalf of the police or anybody, should be able to go to a police station and say, hey, the magistrate want the information or the whatever to make the case blah blah blah, close or shut, close or to make a decision, and should make to subpoena the officers in the system to bring forth the evidence so that the people don't have to be willy-nilly about here, walking about with their head up. They don't want to get in jail tomorrow, head up, they lose the job the next day. So I believe that in the system, I've seen it in the American system, that if the court martial is sent with a court order, you better follow all them boxes in the corner that catching dust, because they got to go to the court to bring forth evidence to support a case. So when I say that they're underutilizing it, I believe that they could be given more roles in terms of making sure that the court duty is being called, is being effective. I just believe that. I don't know what you think.
That touches a deeper issue though, because the law allows for a police officer, if he believes that you broke the law, to just come and snatch you up and carry court, charge you, then he got to prove his case.
So you're guilty to prove it innocent.
So your reputation already ruined, already stained, and we know when you come across the courtyard,
everybody
Mediation,
they need to abolish that foolishness.
And Barbados today, and Kimara Free, the CEO, the homeless, charge.
And if I wait them up a handcuff,
charge for whatever. Right? You front page, and you didn't do anything as yet, right? So then the police officer now comes and put the case in the court and disappear for the next 5 years and produce a shred of evidence or file
and you got
case,
stigma on you,
right?
And they got to court every damn month.
You got to deal with all your reputation damages.
That's
you got
right.
to court every month.
That's right.
Everything, and then
I understand.
he transferred the responsibility onto the prosecutor, who was not even there in the first place.
And heads or tails, but
he in court every day.
Right.
I can't get evidence.
I'm shuffling.
And then the prosecutor would turn around and argue a case where he was not even there, right? And just relying on word of mouth information. I ain't saying that.
From the same prosecutor or police.
Yes.
Which I believe that should be
This is not
abolished.
fair. So then I
believe that should be. We should go to office of prosecution.
So y'all have all these brilliant ideas to
That's why our show is here.
But
No, it should be abolished.
But yes, but then we have to look at the practicality.
Listen, these are, I often say that once we throw it out, those that are in the know or anything earshot should listen. Because I believe that, just like I have the firm belief, I don't know who else would agree with me, but I am of the firm belief that the police complaint division should be moved from underneath the police. Because there ain't no way that police should be investigating police for complaints.
You want an independent body?
It should be an independent body made up of whether it be former police, some civil some
Lawyers.
society, some lawyers should be on there. And the same thing for the lawyers, where lawyers should not be investigating lawyers.
You're right. Lawyers should not be investigating lawyers.
Because listen, it's like me, okay,
Good point, bro.
if I could walk into the bank and go into the vault and take up my money, well then everybody in Barbados could do the same.
Well, all right.
You understand? Because there ain't a safety there when everybody could walk in the vault and take up whatever they want.
All right. We got a comment here from Sanchez. Sanchez said, look, she said exactly. I had the opportunity. I think she's going back to restorative justice.
Okay.
She said exactly. I had the opportunity to work with a young man down here who was arrested for fighting with a female due to being provoked. The court assigned this young man to me for 1 year to be evaluated and to do anger management therapy with him. I had to produce reports of his attendance, and I was also requested to appear in court on his behalf. I also wanted to add he had psychological issues, and they honored this as we produced the clinical assessments to prove this.
That is good.
So, and
But what I want is for
America.
people, they need to
This is
use
America.
this system. Oh, that's in America?
Yeah, Sanchez is in America.
Okay, so actually, this is why I said this is good in terms of having it here in Barbados.
Yeah.
Because persons like myself, as a professional in the area, being able to understand I won't claim that I'm a psychologist. I can read people, I can understand. But I've been practicing psychology for a while. But I'm just saying.
So like Trump man.
No. Well, you know, they got some people in this that was in government that was called doctor, and so they ain't doctors.
I don't know about that.
You know, so I just saying.
I don't know about that.
Titles are but mere titles,
I don't
right?
know about that.
In some cases, you know, the closest I've ever been to LLM is a LLB. See, it's good too,
Some people
right?
got ASS. I'm associate degree.
So what I'm saying is that these kind of things work. And not only that, if we have proven success here with the homeless, where yes, we see people are coming on the street daily because of the situation they find themselves in, but we are also taking people off the streets.
True.
It goes to show that we can produce to the court system that our success of working with people, then they could be awarded here. Because when COVID came about, when the government issued the national shutdown where you had to be off your road by a certain time, now we had close to 70 homeless people off the streets by law, because any of them that were caught, the police were bringing them here. If they refused, the police would deal with them otherwise. But they listened because the law sent them.
That's
So
right.
that's what I'm saying. If you're working with organization and you're working with people, and the court demands or command that you go here and work with Simon, there may be results. We have to get away from the norm of doing things. That's why, like the psychologist and the case manager. A case manager is very different, you know, because sometimes we get the one of the downfalls of the welfare system is that you have a welfare officer who is case manager, social worker, psychologist, doctor, pain manager, and everything. And when you separate it, like how we do it here, our psychologists can't go and support the needs of the client. They call somebody, the client say, look, man, I would like to connect with my mother and my father. That's not the psychologist job, you know. That's the case manager job. The person, I want to pass on the shirt. That's the case manager job. So I kind of support the duty, separate the duties so that the work is more effective and done properly. And that is what I'm just saying, that we need to have some systems in Barbados where it separate powers, where it separate authority, where it separate people, and so that you can have an effective judicial system. The lawyers have been calling for these things for years, but I understand it. But sometimes they don't listen to. It's like you know what, my wife live in the same house as me, and she could tell me door dropping off, and they may not listen. But somebody may walk in my house and holler about, you know, your door dropping off, and you listen.
Yeah,
so
like,
it won't just don't always
Yeah.
be in the way that you want it to be.
So Maria, you need to work on your foreign accent, and you need to.
And let me pay you. I can pay you what you
And then tell them, you know,
Which
I
accent you want me to work on?
I think you need to work on the European accent.
The
More like a
which
British.
one?
a British-
I don't think we want the European black. Let's say we too
No,
much.
Simon, if Maria's public conversation is anything to go, but she be in a very well positioned, very poised position to give her contribution to
You think so?
the legal system in Barbados.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
she could clarify what I mean by that, but I
Yeah.
am not a tad of
You want me to go?
Yes.
But let's go back to restorative justice. That's money.
You like that restorative justice?
Yes, I've been pushing it.
I've been
pushing it
clearly
because
this is his love.
yes,
This
it
his
is.
right.
It is. It
Yes.
is because we've been speaking about it.
Do you
and
need restorative justice?
I hope that if I'm ever in a situation where I am the victim of a crime, that I am still allowed to have
Call
that as well.
Maria.
Yes, as well.
Call
because-
Maria. Call Maria.
Yeah, because the thing about it is that as you read about restorative justice, you understand it's about the repairing that relationship between the victim, the perpetrator and the community.
That's
And it
correct.
benefits everybody. So that the person that, like going back to what you said, Kimara, a fellow that might have broken into a house or stolen something from somebody's house, he won't be necessarily labeled and blacklisted as he's the community thief. And, you know, can be ostracized and can't get work. Oh, don't give you no work because he's the thief. Once he's able to show to the community and to the person that is the victim that, hey, you know what, I reformed from my ways, I am trying to change, I committed the crime, I knew it hurt you, and I want to replace what I stole from you, but I also want to show to the community through community service and so on that I am a valuable member to society, I can go back in society. It is important.
To add
That's
another
very
angle,
good.
add another angle, I want to look at it from like a public perspective now,
Yeah.
where persons are harmed by institutions of the state,
Oh, wow.
and how we can have some sort of reimbursement for them. So
Beyond just financial.
if you go to jail for extended periods of time, more than likely you can come out back homeless, nowhere to go,
If you're working in prison, you may get less than saying, you know.
$1 a day.
Well, better than
Less than that.
Or $1 a week. Right, so my thing is, when you have criminals coming out of prison with no
Ex-convicts.
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 Yeah.
Barbados, I was told Barbados don't have no criminals.
Right, people change on
I was told about it.
It goes
See,
back
but
to
that's
terminology.
what, you see, what happens is that even though you
That
have
was
done your time, society
He's a criminal.
still judges you, and you are forever
Boy.
a convict, or you are forever
That's
a
American
criminal
term.
in their eyes. So the community never forgives you.
So that-
who is going to go now in your own community? Because restorative justice not only looks at the solutions, but also looks at the programs that are necessary
yeah.
to have the offenders or ex-convicts reintegrated into
But how much of those
society.
programs
So
they
my
got?
earlier point was that I only know that you were a criminal because it was blast all over the nation and Barbados today. Right? And more than likely, if you went on
And all other media.
if you went on remand and you were found not guilty, I still can remember you as the man
That's
that went
correct.
jail.
Correct.
That's
Doing all
correct.
But
this.
don't forget,
That
it
is
is also
correct.
that we live in a society, as a man once said to me,
Correct.
for so long we have been taught so wrong. So our society sees you as a criminal because that's the word the Bajan dialect uses. In America, you use convict. In Barbados, you use criminal. Even for those that just went thief for their toffee, he's a criminal.
That's
True.
correct.
And so, right,
What's the
one of the things I think,
Yeah.
one of the things I think we should do as a country, and we always love to give the advice again, is to remove the Hall of Fame walk that we got in Barbados. That Hall of Fame walk from the precinct from the police office station to the court.
Yeah.
I believe that all major crimes should be publicized in terms of how they do it in
Guilty.
America.
Yeah.
No, because don't forget, in America they have like public trials that affect the general public at large. Could be tried publicly. I don't mind. But those are the petty tests and discharge and that charge, because to walk across there and then your boss see you and the boss ain't even hear he was reprimanded and discharged.
Sure.
The boss ain't hear that, you know.
You
All the
jump
boss
on.
see his staff doing so choop back down, and we might get it. And all the glory moments that you get till you get in the bus and cry. Trouble, I get laughing, mommy. And when you get in the bus, you start crying for your mommy. Right? But what I'm just saying is that to remove all of that stigma, because that, and also the court section, obviously it publicizes
It's
where you
sensational.
live.
It's sensational.
I do not know why in Barbados, in the media, you publicize where a man live. He come from 46 of years from Duncan,
Orleans.
Chabat, Orleans,
Orleans.
and then you start to
Right,
publicize.
church.
And before you tell the people about what the offense the person commit, we down got about 2 pages where he live, family knowing of whatever. These things is unnecessary to
It's true.
support the justice system.
It's
So
self-paper.
I don't know, it's in the middle of the page. I don't know if
Self-paper.
that was if a crime is I don't want to use it. I don't want to use it. If I will use it, I want to use it respectfully. We saw the Campus Trend Act.
Yeah.
Now that is that's something that grieved the public. I don't mind something like that being a public attention and giving knowledge of what happened, because that hurt all of us. Now we could understand that, but I'm just saying, crimes of apparatus, crimes of petty drugs, it do not need to bring to the, and I don't know where you would involve the. I think that the police, the magistrate need a PRO that could bring the cases to issue a statement on this.
Wayne was saying
Yeah.
freedom of press, right?
Press freedom.
But I know I went to.
Well, you can't say so we went from the store tell the press to move back when he was looking at the property across here by Hayat.
I don't know whether you were there.
Paper carried
You were there.
it.
You were
What
there.
do you mean they carried it?
I can't recall.
So there's a freedom of the press, but we have to be careful what is freedom of the press.
I went to a session one of the courts in Barbados, and we were on a tour from school.
You sure it was a tour?
Yes, we were on a tour from school, and when a case came in with specifically relating to a domestic case between a man and woman, we were then asked to leave the room
That's it.
because we were not to hear the
Privy to it.
specifics of the
Correct.
case, right? And the press, they didn't have the ability to report on it either.
So,
So every
go ahead.
opportunity is being awarded to a case like that.
Sensitive.
I think that other issues that affect
You have a point.
these persons should be allowed the same.
And we can't keep
courtesy.
we can't keep loosely saying, and I understand where Wayne is coming from. We can't loosely keep using freedom of the press because there's also your freedom as
Right,
an
and personal
individual and
rights.
personal rights.
Your personal
So, for
rights.
example, remember when the Ministry of Education was holding their teachers conference?
Oh, yes, I remember.
They had to press had to leave. They were able to do everything from the outside. And then they were issue statements where they could go and report. So what I'm just saying is that we too have to be careful that we are not making our people. Barbados is so small, but there's a way to do it. I am not against if there's certain matters that need to be publicly said or publicly tried, but there is a jury in Barbados that a lot of people do not know about. But when that jury
Your public
convict you,
opinion.
you convict you,
Jury
and they
public
convict
opinion,
which is the
boy.
public's
Public
opinion.
opinion, boy.
And when they trial you,
Try you.
they trial you.
That's it.
Because
And that's
the thing
it.
about it is that you are on the front page for alleged drug charges or murder charge.
Alleged.
But then now when you get off, is this a small little caption? There's nothing big. So why not put you back on the front page? And finally, get off.
Because and there's no update on
It's
the.
not gonna sell.
There's no update, but that's what I'm saying. And there, for me, going back to what we were talking about, Marie, there's not a lot of criminal reform systems in Barbados.
That's a point.
So, and not only that, I would love to see where the system, after serving a time for petty crime, remove that from your
Yeah.
police certificate of character and not have to wait 10 years to scrub.
You can apply for it.
But we know the plan is still the 10 years to scrub.
Good luck with that.
I've had people apply for that within my system to give them a job.
Can get it, do.
And they're saying if a minister don't sign this, and if somebody don't sign that, you can't get that because I think it's either JP, a lawyer, the minister, or a person of religion to sign that. But now they're saying that a JP can't really sign certain things unless they have a relationship with you. So there's not the norm where you can just go to JP now and say la, or come get.
I want to comment here quick.
Go ahead, sir.
So we had Wayne was saying several criminals don't have the financial means to compensate. This is going back.
There's
to
fire there.
The press focus mainly on criminal matters. That is true. But Isis King has an important, but kind of nice comment here. I think she's saying before justice reform, the adults need to be informed.
I like that.
Hashtag the youngsters are out of control because the adults are not in control.
Ooh, I want heart.
Yeah.
I want heart.
Sancho Walker is saying, yes, Maria, she agrees with you. The reintegration process allows for services to have a support system designed to mitigate the negative effects of being a victim or help the behavioral changes within the criminal. Some of these services can be mental health services, faith leaders, social workers, and or peers from support networks. Going back to
Sorry, Kimar. Just jump back to. I want to add Wayne part on it. The power should be removed from the government, from the ministers. I want to agree with something that Wayne is saying and add it to what Sancho Walker is saying. You see that last part where it says some of these services, but let me just take out these services. Some of these persons should be faith-based social workers and support services. Whereas if a person commits an offense and needs to get their records scrubbed, they should go and meet an inquiry or a commission of people that are set up to say, what have you been doing for society in the last 5 years? How have you changed? And gather that information in order to scrub that person properly from the system. That is what we need in Barbados. An inquiry or commission set up to help and remove the power from the minister. I agree with you. Go ahead,
So
Kimar.
you see what you are saying? A lot of these things require impartial bodies. That because
Explain.
you're actually saying you can go to a commission. You're suggesting that they go to a commission to have it scrubbed, right? So what you're saying is that I am going to appear before an impartial body who will ask me certain questions.
And delve in your background, inspectors,
and
bailiffs,
find out
everything.
what it is you've been doing, how have you been contributing to your society, and then they will make a final
And you can bring
decision.
somebody to speak on 2-3 persons speak on your behalf.
Remember the
Yeah.
football
Listen,
club,
these things are
church.
easily done. Why? Because the government, over successive and before, have set up so much useless committees and commissions. And no, I mean fair. That really and truly, that these are things that are hurting the everyday person, you know.
Yeah.
True.
That we can set up commissions,
A lot
and
of those.
a lot of commissions that you hear about that are debunked or defunct or not even in operation. But the everyday society, well, it's not sure that the Maria here and the Kimars and the Simon would could sit on these commissions, and you know they don't pay much or pay anything at all. So it's a civil
Community
duty,
service.
community service
Community
back to the thing to help these people get back.
Jury duty.
Jury duty. I want a jury duty though. Don't send me up for no jury duty though.
I've done that before.
I can call it sick. But what I'm just saying, just to make sure that the systems in place by these commissions.
Alright, and my point
They
was,
calling sick. You know?
I saw something that
You can call
or experienced significant outcry from the public, where the Speaker of the House,
Correct?
but yes, well, all of them
Mm.
were still leaving their chairs to then come into the courts to represent criminals. I don't want to mention any specific case, but we had a very notorious and publicly known criminal, and he was represented by the Speaker, and I saw persons were very up in arms about that. I personally think, and it's just my personal opinion,
That's a political job.
and this is my
okay,
personal
Kimar,
opinion,
this-
is that
Yes, his opinion.
is that I do not think that the Speaker, whoever government,
Even you, Maria.
right, should be representing certain criminal cases if it is representing a, we will call a conflict of interest,
Sure, big
a known
conflict.
menace to society, right? I ain't saying that the gentleman is, but let's say if the person is,
It's very high profile.
yes, I don't think the Speaker should.
But it
be
separates his
involved.
power. I mean, in Parliament, that's a one wrong on one footing versus his
Professional.
profession.
But you
But
see,
he
you see what
represents-
you're
but he
saying there,
represents
Kimar?
more-
But then we know we had speakers too that they say were criminals themselves too. So I'm just saying.
I don't know.
If
I
just
don't
saying-
know what you're speaking about, Mr.
I don't know what he's speaking about neither, but I'm just saying. But no, I'm just saying it's too share because at the end of the day, there are speakers out there were saying that were of criminal activities that were in the papers right from here, and then there's
to start all of that,
and then start all of that. Right, so I
to
just
cut all of that
Mm.
out, right? I think that there are certain privileges that should be removed from the Speaker if he is
Sure.
occupying the chair.
what do you think, Maria?
Is it a full-time? The Speaker's responsibility.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Exactly.
So he's
as
still
Is that a
a-
senator?
living.
but he has to find his
The way to live in.
live.
But I understand what you're coming from. If you're in the chamber, you're gonna represent
Is
each other
it
cases.
the question you
choose.
have to ask? Is it a conflict of interest?
Right.
And what constitutes
okay.
a conflict of interest?
Let me remember the arms of
Right,
government.
but I want
right?
to,
Legislative.
I want to say something to you
Judicial,
because I
executive.
noticed yours. There is supposed to be, and this a magistrate told me this years ago, and I never forgot it. There is supposed to be a presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
That's
in
right.
our societies, that does not exist.
You're guilty first, but
As you because Kimar, you heard you calling them criminals.
But
Right? They haven't been convicted yet.
But that's a society. That's a
But
society.
that's-
And
Right,
we
Kim,
have
yeah,
been
Kimar
said-
too.
right.
For far too long, we
They
have been
are
taught so
still-
wrong.
You understand? So, and that is why these processes that we are talking about are going to help to restore people
Yes.
reputation wise.
Yes, reputational
And
damage.
because you had, I have friends of mine who had teenagers, they were awful. Went to the government industrial schools and everything, but now they have been
Reform.
excellent contributors in their society and in their community.
Right.
But my thing is this, right? If we stigmatize every offender like that, and we all do it, let's be fair, we all do it,
True.
especially if the persons are well known in the community and they got the names. We ain't calling them, especially we know if they're dons in the community. We know how many people they kill.
And that
We
is-
know how many people they put you know.
I guess it's still innocent.
Yeah.
Yes, we know a hit. We know how many people they put hits on. Okay, there are dons out there, but the reality is we know them,
It's true.
right? But there is an opportunity. We have to realize that people can change. People.
Hear
I'm
that,
not
Kumar?
saying
Suffering
I agree. I mean,
people
I'm
still
can
suffering.
change, right?
You change, Simon?
They can.
every day.
Right, I mean, there were some fellas that went to school at me that I was scared of them, right? And some of them went to prison after school. That's the truth, right? But they're out now. They're very reformed. Some of them.
I think we mature.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
I mean,
that's
just the thing. I mean, I was not always the best behaved.
I know.
And I
You just
get
look clean
trouble
and
and-
thing now, right?
But
yeah,
right, so I agree with your point. I agree with your point.
I was a
right?
don.
But I
You were
agree.
done? Okay.
I had a don.
Confessions.
Oh, there, no.
No, sorry, I mean, you like Don Marie.
Right? but fundamentally though, right? The issue still remains, Simon, and you could
Go ahead,
agree or
brother.
disagree with me. Right? The speaker occupies one arm of government, right? He's in the parliament.
You most powerful arm of government.
Legislative.
So my thing is, if he is in there having conversations with the leaders of the country, he oversees the parliament, which means that he should know the law as and he's already a lawyer.
Correct.
Right? So my thing is, in order to avoid situations where the wider public may believe that you are utilizing the system for your benefit against the right of your represent or who you represent, right? The speaker should.
But how is he? How is he? Is
That's a
it,
decision that he will have to make on his.
or the parliament will have to bring that to legislation. But again, you can't blame somebody for having a profession which these systems allow, because that's like a minister can't have a full-time job. I can't own a business, fine, but a parliamentarian can have. Just now it was said in the papers that Ed Mahinson have gone back to his practice.
Right.
And he's
He's
an
an
attorney.
But he's
So-
a minister.
But he's not a minister, but minister will have to throw his.
In my opinion, he's a backbencher. The different.
But you can't say he's a backbencher. You have to. He is a part of the
But he is a
legislative body.
backbencher.
He makes, but no, his vote
No,
counts.
speaker.
But he won't come.
But no, his vote
Or the
counts.
Attorney General.
But no, his vote counts in terms of making law in Barbados, in terms of making policy. So you can't, the speaker is the overseer of parliament, which is just without a vote. In some cases, they say he can vote. But at the end of the day, the speaker isn't somewhat different from a parliamentarian, other than he chairs other than he's the chairman of the court.
I know. I
court
think
or
the
something.
speaker carries a
He enforces
significant.
He's enforcing parliament,
Procedures.
and that is the important word. He enforces parliamentary procedures. He doesn't enforce country procedures.
No, that's by most of the time he's elected MP too.
He's an elected MP. So I just saying that we have to be, because the law provided, you can't argue it.
But I also want to change the script now. Flip the script, and we want to talk about
Ramako?
domestic violence.
Oh, sorry.
And also claims of domestic violence against men as well. I find that.
You okay, Simon?
No, I'm fine.
Simon,
For
you
now.
get beat by.
You lay that beat. She
You
said,
know,
you
I
good?
can't discuss
Simon,
those things.
you get beat by a woman.
Oh my dear.
Anyhow, Maria,
Really, why y'all are
Really?
putting his laundry on in public?
Because I called Iveretta TTT twice about that.
So you complain to the police and the police laugh
Right,
at
but
you
I've
for
had,
being
we've
by a
had
woman.
situations, right, exactly.
We just joking.
We've had situations where men would have had instances of domestic abuse, spousal abuse, or whatever.
So the woman beat the man.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not physical. The woman may throw hot water on a man, scalding, may try to cut off his penis, destroy his property, mash up the car, destroy his clothing, those kind of things, embarrass him on the job,
Embarrass your job ain't a criminal offense.
But sometimes in situations, I mean, it's as a lead up, because remember, sometimes domestic violence doesn't just come out with the blue. You have a precipitation of events that lead to it.
I used to have a girlfriend that used to beat me.
You do?
Yeah, honestly.
You like that or no?
Nah, I mean, honestly, she used to just a licks, but just because you look at a woman, she will hit you, or if you're driving and you look cross, you see her, you might not be looking at a woman, you'll be looking directly past the woman, and you get hate.
You
So
see, you trivialize what I'm saying.
no, I honestly, yeah.
But that's wrong.
No, honestly,
But that's wrong. What I'm
honestly,
saying-
honestly, as God, my witness, I used to have a girlfriend that used to just chillix in me left, right, and center.
But in a society now, and Sanshia, other people, is saying.
Other men could have
we other people. I think we got Keith Ellis here too as well. And
Yeah, but other men can say the same thing, all the shit.
domestic violence, we hear about the reported cases of domestic violence against women. But sometimes what we don't hear are those cases where men are afraid to go home, or men's property that is destroyed, men have been hurt. I mean, they get stabbed, sometimes men have been stabbed. Somebody say, I take the stab because I cheated on her. Whether you cheat on a woman or not, it does not give a woman a right to take up a knife and stab you. That's like saying, oh well, he had a right to beat you because he catch you in the house with a woman. That's wrong. That's wrong. Because if it is a man beats a woman, and that's if I catch you, a man can you put, as I said, put some warm blows in she. The man is wrong. Why is it that when a woman does that to a man, or try to slow poison the man by his food and so on? We've heard about these things.
But is it past? Okay, I mean, I'm not
I started to go all around the world.
It's true what Simon is saying. I've actually encountered in my professional,
There you go.
more men being abused than women.
Wow.
Okay, the sad reality is that they are not going to be the ones, because society is they will go to the police and the police will laugh.
So, but I've never make a report.
Did you make a report, Kimar? You just said, man, you can. And that's the thing. A lot of men don't make reports.
I honestly, from time, I think something stained me a couple years ago. This man said that he went in the police station to make a report that he was rapey, and he was laughed at. So for me, I tell myself I can get laughed at too.
Yeah, I guess the law is funny, but that,
He said he got raped, so
you're assuming that because a man gets an erection,
that
he wants to
you.
penetrate.
Wait.
Sorry, go ahead.
How do you define rape of a man? This is
If he
rape-
said no, it's rape.
Wait, this is rape where she was forcing herself on his sexual
Right.
organ, or this is rape where she would penetrate your rear.
That can be part of
But whichever come.
Regardless,
No is no.
That's even saying
That worse.
That's sodomy.
But that works. But in my case,
But how you will feel though, honestly?
no, but
How would you feel going to the police?
I won't feel no
Yes,
way.
but I think at that level, who knows if that is the 5th or 6th time it's happening, man. See this? I'm tired of this because you try again and kill her.
But you will have to
Or
lick that.
whatever.
We will have to lick that.
I
If
want-
But no, it's not that because I've had listen, honestly though, I've had two women in my life that showed themselves on me. I said no, but they were a little bigger than me, overpower me. So where you get your tech. But as the thing, as a man, I still didn't feel complete or satisfied by it. I just was disgusted by it because I said no.
You said no.
You understand? Just to give a thing.
Because our culture is not our. But you see, that's the thing. A friend of mine told me that he cheated, but when we take the stab because he was wrong. That's why you can take a stab.
If she
He
kill
said no,
you,
he cheated on her. He
you.
said he take the stab. Called the girlfriend. Well, found out that he went with another woman. He said he take the stab. Listen, he take the stab because he knew he was wrong. I mean, that's ridiculous because he doesn't have the faith in the justice system to go and say, well, look, my girlfriend stabbed me. Because the first thing he said, well, wait, she will have to do something. And that's another thing too about the court of public opinion. When a man is killed by a woman or a man is injured by a woman, well, he will have to do something that she draw a knife.
So more women, more crimes on women are publicized than that of men. Listen, I know a man that
And there's more infrastructure for women.
for women. I had a homeless guy, right? He said he went on the Canadian Farm Program.
Right.
So he was sending back money every month, literally religiously. So when he decided to come back home, he wanted to surprise her, so he didn't tell her he was coming back. And he said when he come back home to Barbados and he walked in the house, the first thing he saw was his woman in bed with a man. And he said all he could have done after having his woman for so much years is drop his bike, turn around, and was on the street for more than 13 to 14 years after that. But that was traumatic. It was just traumatic for him. So I understand it based on the fact that mostly in my cases of homelessness, a lot of it constitutes family. And when it's a family, talking about whether it be woman and man dispute where some men couldn't take what women did to them, whether it be physical or emotional or psychological. So, but we constantly hear, because if you were to publicize tomorrow in the paper that a man was beaten by a woman, everybody, probably a large part of the comments will be he deserved it.
Correct. He will have to do
do
something. That's
something.
nonsense.
And so we judge the situation like we don't read the whole news article anymore. We read the title, you know, this and that.
But what I like recently, I think I'm about to go back to the story. I remember it vividly. This pretty brown skinned girl, she had to repay for the damage that she caused to her boyfriend's car.
Oh, that's fine. I agree with you.
Right?
That's
That's
the matter.
restorative. That is restorative.
Correct.
Because and she regretted what she did.
angry.
But that's it. So you angry now? You take your boyfriend step up whether we did or not.
Can we then look,
Shut the
if
car.
we cannot look to that for the judicial system, can we look to that in mediation?
Mediation.
Yes, you can. And if it goes to court, the judge or the magistrate will say, well, you know, how can you compensate this gentleman for his?
So let me talk about that in
So-
terms of the mediation, so people go on. Like, I know that there's not a lot of going around about mediation and what mediation is. If you want to spill a little on it,
Sure, mediation is just where you have a neutral party who's trained.
and it doesn't have to be through the court system.
No, and it does not have to be in the court system. You train normally internationally is recognized. So you've been trained for 40 hours,
Wow.
and it's a foundational course where you will learn ethics and all that. So you are trained to facilitate communication, and which can lead to
So we call it small claims.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not ISIS. Go ahead.
You can mediate any dispute, and as you correctly said, you can mediate from a neighbor's dispute to international dispute.
Wow.
And there are
Between two countries
the
or whatever.
United Nations
That's
has
that
mediators.
mediation.
You have
Right, that's
mediators
what it is.
between
Israelis and the
Palestine and
Palestinians.
Palestinians.
That's right.
Exactly.
So she's-
right.
she's
So you
serving
can
us all.
take this, and I encourage my students to think
So
that way.
Simon owe me $500 still for said last year. It can
Really?
mediate. It can mediate it.
Yeah.
Maybe
Not you.
Yeah?
Maybe behind.
If he owes
the
you, you
blessing.
need a
I'm saying
neutral
back my carefully.
person.
Who's the neutral person? Right, the mediator is the neutral person.
The mediator is the
Right,
neutral
by him,
person.
I can talk to you to get back my 500.
Yes.
Yeah, you might get back the same time. I can give you
Yes.
$5 a year.
Right,
Okay.
so then
For
what I will
100
be
years.
doing will be meeting with both of you all separately, because you look as though you're two hot heads.
Mm,
You're
yeah.
wrong, right? You're wrong as well.
And and you look as though you're gonna stick to your guns. So I will be between both of you all trying to reach that settlement.
Right, so
Right.
there's a new system in place that people have to understand that there's mediation.
mediation.
Some boys keep calling it small claims.
You got Henderson,
Well, we
right?
need a small claim. Henderson Yard, you
I
want
love
one?
the comment. He said he is the better man because I know about men who came home and set the house on fire after finding their spouse in bed with another man. And this is after being at sea, looking to make things better for their family.
Yeah, boy. Shh, I want rough.
That one is rough. Listen, thanks, boy.
When, yes, I made
No,
the
I
point
mean-
earlier about courts needing PRO because I think that, you know, one of my biggest dream for Barbados, or one of my biggest thing for Barbados, and how we can create a lot more employment, is to take a lot of services from under government and start to put these services into private sector or PPP
That are
partnership.
reputable.
Reputable. No. I think it's all reputable people about here.
I
But
agree.
what I'm just saying is that I would love to see a PRO firm set up dealing with and having a representative in every court for PR problems. I would like to see the psychologists, because here's what we are graduating so much people that are graduating
Yeah, with
only with a
degrees
degree.
and it is.
So having people in psychology graduating does work in the judicial system, or work with the companies through the judicial, because don't forget in America too, you know, that the system in a lot of courts, I would say federal courts, I stand corrected, but let me use it loosely. Federal courts are more owned by the government, while
Mm,
counties, states,
yeah.
or states are owned by
Yeah,
private.
that's right. Run.
So run by private, and they get paid for every inmate that comes in. So what I'm just saying is that I
That
believe,
was an issue too as well.
yeah, everything has a pro and a con.
Uh-huh.
So, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, we can find system or ways in which we can have a lot of PPP partnership, to have these, and government won't have to worry
We
about
also
the
have
high
to welcome
costs.
Steve Black into the program. He's watching.
Yeah, you will.
Before we
Right.
I want to discuss that.
Sorry, I just want to
of,
give you any topics that you didn't touch on before we
We'll
close.
be close, yeah.
I just want to discuss that of the family and justice for. Well, that's not a word, but justice for either parent who wants custody of children.
That's a big one.
Family
boy.
court, family court issue.
My issue, or what I observe, is that we have a lot of men who contribute to keep with the child, but
That's
then
right.
you have vindictive mothers who will not allow
In some
access.
instances, is that correct, Maria?
Right?
That's correct.
And I mean, it's mostly affecting the men, mostly. And if
I would like free DNA test in Barbados.
I think that
That would blow
the
some
court
things.
actually favors women when it
But
comes
they're
to
vulnerable-
custody
vulnerable
of
group.
children, and there are many instances where mothers are not fit
She going to cry.
to have custody of the kids, but because of maternal instincts or what's not, the magistrate will still give custody
Still give
over.
them
And I think that we are belittling the contribution of men to a child's keep to 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday, and that's not fair or right. And then most men get upset with the process and being restricted from seeing their kids. And I think that that's contributing a lot to
A lot of domestic
the
violence or
issues
even
with kids.
Yeah, I think
How
so.
do you look at that,
How do you
Maria?
look at it, Maria?
That's something I encounter regularly. A lot of the issues in family are unrelated. Some of them are unrelated to the law. So, for example, if a gentleman moves on and he has been supporting his child all the time, all of a sudden the person, the mother might bring an application
For more?
for maintenance.
For increasing maintenance, just like that.
But that depends on, so can a man bring an application for maintenance from a woman?
If the child is in his care,
Ah, the child got that.
the child has to be in your care.
So, Kimar, sorry, that kind of answer is not to preempt you.
Right.
That answers your question.
But yes, I would say to you that men do face a uphill
We do.
battle,
We do.
right? But you have more fathers now who are stepping up to the plate,
Yes, of
right?
course.
It's not as bad as it was before. But yes, because there are emotions. Me as a woman, this was a man you had a relationship with, and he's moved on. And then what you will
Well,
see
let
is
go,
that
boy.
all of a sudden he was taking care of the child. All of a sudden now you need to bring the application in court, right? And so there are those issues that are unrelated.
True, because the man done with the woman.
But I would like to see men.
That's the reality.
Just adding to this, Kima, I would like to see
You have a
more
point.
men supportive groups, right? But here's what my
You got men.
solution would be to. That also that, like PTAs and stuff like that in every school. I would like to see strong men supportive group almost in every community, right? But what I would also like to do is see that the recommendation could also be taken from these serious groups that are probably what I think that the court could look at the recommendations to say that this man is capable or this man, because I was a father of 3, and I believe without a shadow of doubt that come hell or high water with me and my wife, I want my children like hell. I don't want a 2 day a week nothing.
You want me
I want
like-
a Saturday Sunday.
And you
I
don't
want
I
7 day a week.
I don't want your role in your child's life to be
Reduced.
reduced
Nah.
to just paying
Okay.
You
up
can
money.
agree to that.
You can agree to that. You can-
can
But again, that's where the mediation. I believe this is why I believe
Mediation.
so much in mediation, because the court. I don't see the court. Listen, a court is like a contentious battlefield. In some cases, where people believe that they go in court to fight, and that is where the misguided approach
Yeah.
is that you go in court to fight. If you are in a mediation process, you believe that just an amicable decision could be made across the table between two persons because there's conversation.
Right.
Remember in the court though, I use my lawyer.
Right.
So I got to be like, Maria, blah, 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 blah. Maria
I
ain't
have seen
thing.
some of my colleagues actually, like, even if for instance where a person can only pay so much, the attorney is there next door saying, no, ask for more, ask more, ask
That's
more.
correct.
So it becomes contentious.
Adversarial.
Because they should know in mediation that the attorney cannot speak so much in the mediation
Right,
process.
but what I'm saying,
You can advise.
even though, especially in this context where you can have some people who can't find work, a man might be coming, he's doing his utmost best,
Put a little something in
right?
the future.
But the attorney is not concerned about the fact that your client is doing his utmost best. They want to win.
But the attorney
If
can probably
it's
support
a-
each other.
So it's a win, meaning that the attorney is being paid.
It's a win
On their record.
that they get what they asked for.
What does the attorney get from that?
The pride,
Prestige?
the of knowing
The personal
that-
pride, because it doesn't go anywhere.
the pride that you've
Won a
asked
case?
for $1,000
I got it.
and you got
But
it.
where the, but I understand that the pride comes out of say my thing is
It happens.
how does that
It
benefit
I know.
and that's what I call a selfish lawyer, because where does that benefit the client?
But
Because you may say you want, listen, I always say, I like the what you call the Coleman approach. You could give me $5, but I know you could that $5 may continuously come in hard time, good
Correct.
time, bad time.
Exactly, as
But you
opposed-
ask for 1,000 and then next week I'm back in the court saying
Correct.
I can't afford that.
Afford it.
Right.
So have you really won?
right.
Because the person has to come back to you again, and you may have to go back in front of the court again,
right.
just to be look like an idiot as a lawyer.
So this whole conversation is bringing us right back to where we began. The necessity for alternative dispute processes
All
to
right.
be out the system.
I like the mitigation.
Because at the end of the day,
Restorative justice.
we are not winning. The system is not being assisted in any way. It's not effective. We have parties who are leaving
Get ready to recall.
relationships who
Get ready to recall.
and who are not being reconciled,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you understand the importance of why we need these processes as integral.
Sooner rather than later too.
Yeah, to the
Because I
system.
don't think the society is failing day by day as we keep these measures in place. And I always oftentimes say that the minority-led administration has the upper hand now in Parliament based on the fact that they have the majority to be able to pass proper legislation in this country to be able to survive the average man and woman. If we continue go to Parliament and look at land laws and land legislation and
But we
not
pass-
negating those that they're
We passed a
important.
good civil issue,
But-
we passed a civil issue, a contentious civil issue in court with KA unions.
But yeah, but
They want to do a referendum on it.
yeah, but shouldn't we look at focusing on the everyday man issues?
Exactly.
Yes.
We are focusing.
That's a particular
Listen,
group. That's a particular
we
group.
appreciate the Parliament and we appreciate the government in what they do or try to do. What I'm saying is that the average father is still hurting every day paying court system. The average woman or man is continuously being abused without regrets or recourse. These are the everyday. I always say sometimes, when Jesus took the people upon the mountain, he ain't only preached to them, but he feed them. That has to teach us something. That you can't only look at the thing on a one-sided thing. You have to look at it on a holistic approach. Go ahead with Paul's 2 comment
Right.
before we wrap up at 8:30.
Right, let's start with one by Shauna Rollins. She said serious family issues and spouses try to spite the other partner in many different ways, going back to what we talked about, domestic
Yeah,
issues.
and that's part
True.
of the system, and what you have is one party acting against, and sometimes you may not have a colleague on the other side who is going to take the client one side and say, listen, this is not working for you. I think you need to go here.
That's right.
Y'all ever watch, I strongly recommend you watch this. It was a Netflix film, Marriage Story.
I can watch
Mm.
Marriage Story told the story. I saw it so many times in reality of a couple who wanted to do mediation, but who ended up going to attorneys.
Is it a series?
It's not
Okay.
serious.
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
I knew the other one with the
Johan,
Mhm.
what's her name? I can't remember the
Mhm.
actress. But
Marriage series.
in that story, you
Scarlett
saw
Johansson?
you saw how the attorneys actually caused both parties to be polarized.
Right.
Because what happens as an attorney, you are trained to take a side.
Mhm.
And with mediation, that's why you're wearing a separate as a mediator. I am not taking a side. I'm neutral.
For what's best.
And that's what it's good. That's all that you don't have to be a mediator. You don't have to be a lawyer.
Right, so let me continue.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
Listen,
Go ahead, Paul.
Information is to the police by a witness confidentiality. And the police go to the community and say, person, I told you that you have a gun." The community.
That's true though.
The community becomes scared to share info with the police. You
That's
can
very
make judgments
true.
before you go to the judge. Isis King says, more clients and bragging rights. The way it says, but the child have to live. Forgive and send a message to the community to help eradicate guns from the community. But the police should never reveal their community.
But you know the police is do that though.
Go down to
The police
Anthony.
come up
Somebody
here.
say you got a gun.
The police come and say, look, Simon, Safri tell me that you got a gun in here.
Safri, you want to
And
see the officer?
right now, we got here in the police station, and he tell me, and he sent a statement saying that you got this gun, and you and he went on the road and killed the man. So I can't be good. And then they say, oh, it ain't me,
Hit me.
but it was
Jeez.
the man and Jeremy and all, and then all 5 of we gonna be in court tomorrow, and handcuffs, lock up, and all of we gonna remand for 2 years for one gun.
Or the only one man can pull.
Isis King saying that the community doesn't have the means or money to bring in and distribute guns. We got a comment here by Dr. Anthony comments. Finally, as a wrap up, The Maintenance Act, in all fairness, was designed to protect mothers who historically were pregnated and left with 3 or so children, where separate fathers ran off and left the mothers to generate support. The laws now need to be transformed to incorporate fathers and the children. So we can agree on that, not bad.
Yeah. We, as I said, we need to seriously look at reform. That's why I believe that the Parliament should be effectively used at this point to look at the everyday problem of people. Whereas, yes, we have strong and we have legislation that need to be passed, but I think that we need to have a set of parties that are looking at, like, I should be looking at homelessness and what a recommendation I can make to government to look at homelessness and the legal system, or I have focus group, whether this town commission could be it or not, and to look at the everyday problem and pitch the everyday problem, which could go to government and in two parts without having to have 6 and 7 sittings of the same paper over and over, and here that we have to push back this one. This everyday thing could be passed in 2 minutes because it could be debated and passed, and people, I believe, both from the Parliament to the Senate, because you know why? They see as a problem that they encounter too. Because they're the same politicians that are the same lawyers. They're the same politicians that are the same doctors. And they're the same politicians in civil society. And with the problem, may have family that is are already incarcerated or were incarcerated or have friends. So when we focus on the everyday societal problems, I think that we overcome things and the challenges that we as the average man sit and face. When I sit down most of the time and I hear bills being debated, previous or no, it is some bills, well, I appreciate the it is not relevant to me or to my working class or to my constituents. And whatever we do have to be able to benefit the people at large, because people are not going to sit down in Parliament and listen to about why we need another Hyatt or why we need another Sam Lodge. Well, all great and fine. They know that that's a foreign exchange that they will never see. They know that may be bringing in a dollar. Some people may never stay at the Hyatt. Some people may never stay at the thing. So they don't care because they don't have the money to stay. So they're benefiting tourists or whatever. Well, it may benefit the coffers of government in terms of foreign exchange. Fine. But loosely, I may use this. People may say, who cares about foreign exchange if it can't bring me a piece of bread? Who cares about this if it can't bring if it can't bring about it? So the societal issues and not the economical issues need to be looked at also.
I think one political party was saying that the Barbados is more than an economy, it's a society.
Which party is that?
Okay.
Not the Democratic.
I believe you think about that.
Families first.
Families first.
In wrapping up quickly though, my last point would be we definitely need to take a look at the crime situation. I think that violent crimes, particularly murders, getting out of hand. We don't manufacture guns in Barbados, which means that they're arriving on the
so? We have an idea where they're coming from now too.
I can't.
Some recent.
I do not necessarily know that planes fly over Barbados and drop them
they don't swim, guns can't swim.
And guns don't swim.
I can remember years ago they banned our guns.
So even though we have armed forces in Barbados which use guns, and we're
carry gun.
Right, which carry guns. Then we have private ranges, and then we have cadets that allows for controlled environments for gun use. What I am finding is that we have a large section of younger people who are becoming very keen and interested in gun use.
Have access to it, the ease of access. Really.
So my thing is,
videos now, all the videos on guns.
Right. Yeah. My thing is, we need to be able to capture that. So if you cannot stop or you refuse to stop the flow of guns, my thing is, get it in a controlled environment if that's the case. If you are good enough to shoot a man from 30 years old, that means you could be a soldier or a police.
Or you can represent
Barbados. Or you can represent Barbados in the gun. Right. So my thing is, we need to, if we see that the society is going in a direction of gun use and preventative measures are not working, we need to be able to control.
What about you think about getting guns? More people registered legally.
Great, good.
But that's the thing. But everybody sees. But you see, and that's the thing, though, Kimar.
Which one?
You gotta be careful.
Which one?
Coming from I mean, in terms of registering guns and so on, a lot of people use guns. There are people who use guns for a trade. I use a gun to rob people to make money, or I have a hired gun. That's the honest truth. We know about that. And then there's some who use guns for recreational purposes. I got friends that go on to shoot. They get medals, get awards. I got a friend Gerard. Gerard is going to shoot for Barbados, and he does his stuff. Yeah, a good man. They call me. And he went and
Wanna
requested
come
me.
here- wanna come
But anyhow,
here and see.
my whole my whole issue is that those boys,
Come
I mean
here.
those boys that have access to the weapons, we have, and as you said rightfully, they don't come from within the community. We have to really clamp down on how the guns are getting in.
We
know
we
who
are the
persons
police.
are. The police.
So
but
what-
I can't blame the police either. Our police is arrest people.
But what
Police arrest alleged persons.
can we ask
Nothing comes-
can we
comes to
ask
this.
then a stupid question? And I
Police-
always say,
police respond.
let me ask stupid question to get the proper answer. If we know that Jojo down the road they sell the guns,
You can't
or Papa up the road got the guns, Papa may be the big boy and not the small fish.
right.
Why Papa can arrest? Or why Jojo?
Call partners.
So, is it fair to say then that if I got a company employing about 2,000 people in Barbados, but I knowing to distribute guns or sell guns illegally, I may be left to do my thing because I could affect
For the greater
2,000
good.
people
Yeah,
for the
you
greater
could-
good.
yeah, seems
I
so.
walk blacklist. I don't know a lot of people walk blacklist, and blacklist teach me a lot. So I know you gotta let the criminal go
For the greater
for the
good.
greater good.
But that's what happened with
You don't answer that, Maria. You say
answer
that.
that.
Huh?
I am listening.
You listen attentively, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
But-
Yes. You have a comment?
Close and comment.
My closing comment is I am looking forward to a future in which we have alternatives within our system, or else our system is going to remain as it is.
True.
But
And
I could ask a question.
regardless of all the changes that they're being made,
Mm-hmm.
unless you are given effective and you're putting in, because you could replace a system with something, and that system you replace with is not effective either,
So there's no enforcers.
and it doesn't have the capacity.
No
So
checks and
I'm looking forward to seeing a Barbados, because in which y'all talk about gun violence and all those are issues that we have to address,
Restorative
because we
justice.
are trying to bring people here to bring in foreign exchange, but they're not going to come to a place that is going to be
The Wild West.
exactly.
But they live anywhere else.
We have the
They
opportunity
can anywhere.
But they won't escape it.
to position this country as
I think we do.
a dispute settlement center,
Of course we will.
and I am looking forward to what the future will hold.
But-
And we got empower civil society. This is my closing. We need to empower civil society organizations with the tools, the training,
That's right.
and the resources
I-
to do that work that the government of itself cannot do or doesn't have the time to do. And let those civil society organizations with the correct funding and the correct placement be in a position to impact the lives. If you're saying that men are in crisis or that young men are really having problems with the law, let's design programs and empower the civil society organizations along with the church and other groups to have the resources to deal with them. Everything does not require government intervention because there's so much levels of bureaucracy to get things done. So if we can empower the civil society organizations to go forward and to help people, to rescue people, as you would say, how you help the homeless, Kimar, how Faith would work with the men's, Corey work with some of the troubled youth and so on. Yeah, men's
Empowerment Network Services.
Right? It is important that we empower these grassroots organizations to help people.
But I may want your comments on the bus a little bit.
And don't
I-
forget the for gospel business.
For
Yes,
gospel,
for
bit.
gospel, yes.
Well, they've been around for ages doing
Ages,
too,
they
so
did,
we gotta
yes.
remember those for sure.
Correct.
One of the things that made sure both the organization, which is illegal fraternity, and some NGOs underneath and civil society groups, is that we need to be able to voice our concerns much more. I find that sometimes we are afraid of our political affiliation.
Of course.
I remember one time, somebody said to me, I was trying to say, man, I would like to be a politician, so I can try to be careful what you say about politicians. And the person said, are you a politician? And I said, no. He said, but until you become a politician, you have to be a civil servant. Or civil, yeah, so you're not a politician.
Sure.
So even if you got political ambitions or will, at the point you are at now, you have to remember you have to represent the people here, so that when you get there, the people see the representation coming from before.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would love to send the signal to civil society organizations or any other community-based groups out there that we need to take our advocacy approach a little bit more stern. The things that we talk about here, I sure know will they are not things that we have echoed for the first time or other groups have echoed. We probably just had the ideas and we heard them and we brought it out here, but I sure know other people had those same ideas. Until we seriously, as groups, take our pleas straight to the government or straight to whoever or straight to the private sector or whoever and stand up for what we believe in as a collective body, I think that we would put ourselves back to the days of our life heroes. Because when you used to walk days of our life in 2008, it was saying 1986. So we know how far back we is. And for example, I saw the issue and I thought it funny with the same thing with Crane.
Right.
When the gentleman said that there was no suitable applications in Barbados to fill the posts. But one of the interesting things that I saw inside of the paper was saying, if you had a grievances or a difference wrote to the immigration officer, I wonder how much Beijing wrote to the immigration officer to stop that.
None.
Because those are things that obviously group has to put in power. If you're telling me 40,000 people can't be picked, anyone can be picked out of 40,000 people, something got to be wrong. When you got professional hoteliers in Barbados, then I will write to the people the same way and block that.
Kimar, you can't know because don't forget we're 80,000 people short. Let the people come in.
So why now you're depending on the same local to come and patronize, but you can't depend on them.
By the way, Kimar said that we're 80,000 people short.
Well, in the new
We 8,000 people short.
in the new Republic of Barbados, you have 80,000 fresh coming in with 40,000 unemployed.
Hello. Anyway.
I hear Kimar.
Parting shot.
In the new Republic of Barbados. So maybe we get President Mia Motley and Prime Minister Santia Bradshaw and you know.
You never know.
Huh?
So we look forward to see how the system.
I really poor comment.
Look forward to see how the new system is structured in terms of governance.
It has to be structured in a way that
I think it's gonna work. They know they have to.
I don't think it's not, but I think it has to work with. I think it has to work with the mindset that it has to be an inclusive Barbados at this point.
Yeah, that's it. We need
And
an inclusive Barbados.
If we don't argue or we don't stand strong for inclusive Barbados, we will be left up to foreigners coming to determine how our republic would be or how our. I'm not disputing anybody coming and helping in any angle, but I am just saying that we have educated enough people and we stand as one of the most educated intellectual countries in the world. Let our
that's proud people.
We are proud and proud too. It is in our song, in our anthem. But at the end of the day, utilize the people at home and don't make a mockery.
Home drums beat what?
First, any closing comment? Will you, Miss Phillips?
I gave mine
I just
already.
let's go. Then we good then. You didn't believe that you could hold out to 8 o'clock. It's 8:39. 39. We 9. I just say. But we want to thank each and everyone. We were happy that you enjoyed. Some people say it was an excellent program, excellent content. You know, so we were happy that Jeremy was not here tonight. Sorry,
I will not join you. I will not join you. In that,
but you joined me already.
No. I think the honorable member, Jeremy.
Honorable, we were straight that one.
Man and the money.
Yes, we miss you guys.
But we do realize that the show flow is different. As what we said. I didn't say that. I said the show flow is different.
He said easier.
But we love having you on board, man.
Yes, but we thank each and every one of you, Paul. We had Shauna, we had Dr. Anthony, Paul. I'm sorry, Isis.
Happy birthday to Fabian Sargent.
Happy birthday for Men's.
Hello to Lisa Moore as well.
Lisa, you know here.
Yes, she is.
Where she is? Well, I see Lisa comment tonight. Lisa, you're very quiet. You show me.
Please.
Shauna Rollins.
Isis King.
Isis, Henderson, Yard, all of those that think. Yes, all those from overseas that tune in. We just thank you for tuning in. We thank you for your continuous support of the show. We are coming again next week on the show. Great program today, guys. The very relevant topic. We thank you, guys. We're shaping that and we're listening to you. But again, next week we will have another wonderful guest in. We want to thank each and every one of you. Now, if you have not liked the page, please like the page. If you have not followed us, please follow us so that when we come live, you are able to hear us and see us, and then you're able to then pass on information. We want to thank you, Maria. I must say though, I have to give you kudos. You have held yourself good tonight. You're very knowledgeable in your area. I must say that you're one of the guests I enjoyed, and I haven't said that on the show. So you know that is it. You enjoy this?
Then she will bill us.
Yeah, she will
You
bill us,
really came out
and we
with
will
it.
build it. We will send it to the relevant government agency. All right, so that's not a problem. But we want to thank her for her knowledge, her expertise in this area of justice reform. This game we're gonna come to you next week Tuesday.
And look out
I
for
think-
big things from Maria. in future.
Yeah, look over big thing. I
Right.
think you want to mention
Somebody
from your
speaking on your
political.
behalf.
Oh, well, I thought y'all knew,
She is a member of the
the
PDP.
PDP,
Yeah,
yes.
she's
Yes.
you're the sports
Yes.
you're the sports person
On
on
law and
law.
on law and
governance.
governance.
Yes.
So she
Yes,
could be
but
a
I
future-
hope I was wearing a different hat here. I
That's
was
That's
trying
right.
to
I
be,
like that.
I was trying to be, you know.
You want to try. You did it well. You did it well.
Objective and
Yes, you were.
neutral.
You were.
Yes, and somebody said we need a part 2 of this show, so hopefully we will have you back again
With, yeah,
to do
for
a
a fee,
part
for a fee.
for a fee. And Wayne, we will bill you that because she is asking for fee for this next show. Okay,
Yeah, we
so
can sponsor that.
where you can afford to sponsor it. But we want to just say thank you. We ask you to stay
Have a good night, folks.
COVID free. Obey the
Wear a
rules.
mask.
Wear a mask.
Being on the community spread.
You telling the people about wearing the mask, they cast people you show for that wear mask, but I always say you can't talk and wear your mask.
We're gonna talk about wear a mask. This is
Wear
a talk
your
show.
mask.
Yeah, wear a mask, sanitize, but remember that we don't have community spread, so don't panic, folks.
Yeah.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. And watch
Panic.
it.
Those
Watch.
that coming in that sick, get isolated and so on. Be good.
Yeah, we good.
good.
All right, people. We want to thank you again for a wonderful show. Have a blessed good night. Until next week,
Good night.
Tuesday at the same time, 6:30. Yes, I'm gonna get here early. We will see you again. Have a good day, everyone.